Welcome, one and all, to another episode of Pacific414 episode review. I am your host, Mike, and in this episode, I'm going to be talking about episode number 15 of the Bad Batch, Return to Kamino. And be warned, this video will contain spoilers from the episode, so if you don't want to be surprised at as far as what's happening in the episode, then please watch the episode and come back later. So this episode begins with Hunter and Crosshairs back on the Imperial transport headed back to Kamino. And Crosshairs lays out the plan that the Empire has in store, which is to lure Clone Force 99 back to Kamino so they can get rid of them. Of course, Hunter says that they're not going to fall for it, and what Crosshairs ends up doing is he ends up using Hunter's own communication device to relay a signal to the rest of the team. The rest of the team ends up getting that signal, and of course, Omega is saying they have to go and rescue Hunter. Clone Force 99 being Echo, Tech, and Wrecker, they deliberate, knowing that it's a trap, but they also know they have to try to get Hunter back. So they end up setting course back to Kamino, where on Kamino, once they arrive, they see some Imperial cruisers, 3 to be exact, and little do they know that Admiral Rampart has already given Crosshairs and his troops orders to execute Hunter should Clone Force 99 arrive and also get rid of the rest of Clone Force 99. When the Marauder with Clone Force 99 and Omega land on Kamino, they don't land on any of the existing landing platforms that are there. They actually land on a landing platform that's underwater. Tech has a little hesitation because as they're going and making their descent, he says to Omega, when Omega assures him that there's a landing platform there, that there is no landing platform in sight, in which Omega tells him he has to get lower to trigger the landing platform to raise. The landing platform does eventually raise, and then once it is raised, the Marauder is able to land onto the platform, which allows Clone Force 99 and Omega to disembark from the Marauder. And they also discover one other predicament. How are they going to get inside the facility and rescue Hunter, considering this landing platform isn't connected to any bridgeways that allow access into the facility? Well, thanks to Omega, she knows of a tube system that will transport them into a laboratory belonging to Nala Singh. She ends up taking them there to that laboratory, but unbeknownst to her and the rest of the team, Admiral Rampart has allowed Crosshairs, along with the ES troopers, to go into the facility as well. They get a briefing that the Marauder has arrived and its signal has been lost, but they know that the Marauder, along with its crew, are there at the facility. So they sent out some units to go and hunt them down and execute them. What ends up happening is Omega brings Clone Force 99 into Nala Singh's secret lab, and we come to find out that that's where Omega was created, along with members of Clone Force 99, before Clone Force 99 was sent out into the general clone population. Then what ends up happening is they go into another storage area, which is adjacent to Nala Singh's laboratory. And in the storage area are droids that they use for training seminars, as we saw in the first episode of the Bad Batch, and we've also seen training seminars performed in previous episodes of the Clone Wars. So, anticipating that Clone Force 99 is going to be coming to the facility, Crosshairs and the ES troopers are also there in the training facility, unbeknownst to Clone Force 99, who are actually underneath it. And when they go onto the lift and get to the surface, they see that Hunter's there, but he's surrounded by not only the ES troopers, but Crosshairs has him at gunpoint. And Crosshairs says a line of dialogue, basically saying what a happy reunion this is, that they're all back together. And Tech at one point notices that there's a mirror, and they start looking around at the position of the other troopers. And by this point, they've had to surrender their weapons because they are surrounded. And then the surprise happens, and that surprise is Crosshairs firing his sniper rifle and killing all but one ES trooper, and that was ESO2, who manages to escape. What also ends up happening before all this goes down is ESO2 is able to locate Omega as she's trying to activate a few of the droids and send them up. What ends up happening is AZ, her droid AZ34025, shows up and renders assistance. And of course, this also happens when Omega leads the Bad Batch into Nalacine's laboratory. That's the first side of AZ, but I don't really feel that that's neither here or there, because in the overall story, AZ plays such a small, minor part that I don't feel it's very important. So, AZ and Omega managed to take care of ESO2 and knock her out, allowing all the droids to come up. Then, when ESO2 regains consciousness, she gets to the training facility, sees that everything's out of control, closes the door into the training facility, and informs Admiral Rampart that things have gotten out of hand. And Admiral Rampart is answering to one person and one person only. That's Grand Moff Tarkin. Tarkin gives Admiral Rampart the order to fire on the facility and destroy it. So you pretty much know that he's going to say, and he does say it in this episode, "You may fire when ready." So, two of the Imperial cruisers focus their guns onto the facility, and they end up bombarding the facility, thus destroying many buildings of this facility, many platforms, many of the underwater transport bridges. And as this is going on, Clone Force 99 realizes that they're under attack, and they have to not only get rid of the rest of the training droids, but they also have to knock out Crosshair at the same time. And before they even knock out Crosshair, Hunter inquires about Crosshair's inhibitor chip, saying that we have to remove your inhibitor chip because this isn't you. You're being controlled by the inhibitor chip, and it's making you do these things. In which Crosshair says, "I've already had my inhibitor chip removed," and he points to a scar that he suffered from the engine back a few episodes ago. Of course, you don't believe it when Crosshairs is telling you that he's already had his inhibitor chip removed, and before Crosshairs could even make his move to execute Hunter manages to stun him. Of course, it's still in disbelief, thinking, how could he have had his inhibitor chip removed? And when Hunter asked him, Crosshairs tells him, "That's none of your business," as to when and where I had my inhibitor chip removed. Now, this could just be a clever ploy by Crosshairs to keep Hunter off guard, keep him off his game, but we shall find out. So, as the Kamino facilities are being bombarded, Hunter tells Wrecker to take Crosshairs. They're going take him, and everybody's gonna evacuate, including AZ, the droid. So they start heading back to the Marauder, get outside the facility, and they're trying to head to a platform so they can get over to the Marauder. Even though when the Marauder landed, there was no platform for them to get into the facility. And what ends up happening is the platform is destroyed by the bombardment above. They end up going back into the facility. The facility that they're in is hit at its struts and starts falling into the water. And that's where the episode cuts out. So, what did I think of this episode? I thought it was a very good episode. I liked how it's starting to wrap up some of the story arcs of this first season, and that we get to see some dialogue between Crosshairs and the rest of Clone Force 99, which is something I've wanted to see more and more of. We also see more of the new stormtroopers, and they're even referred to for the first time at this point in the timeline as TK units, as opposed to being the clone units. So that was nice, and I love that they're using the original concept art for the stormtroopers. I know we saw it in last week's episode, but I love how they added it into the series, and it's nothing new. They have been able to go back into the concept art that were being done for the original Star Wars and even the prequels, and actually add some of those original concept arts into Star Wars to make them canon, which I think is a real nice touch. And I really enjoyed this episode for the fact that the pacing on it was good. It was a fast episode. It went quick, and the information that they gave you was useful information. It wasn't information that seemed to be pointless. So, all in all, I would highly recommend this episode to anyone who enjoys this series. If they enjoy the Clone Wars, Rebels, if they enjoy Star Wars in general, I would highly recommend this series because this series is good and this episode was very good. Plus, we're getting a season 2, so that's great news on top of that. Would I have any negatives against this episode? Not at this time. Not during my first viewing. I didn't really notice anything that made me go, oh, come on, really? Now, maybe on subsequent viewings, I'll notice a few things that I won't even mention in this review, but as far as I could tell from my first viewing, I didn't notice anything that made me go, no, come on. I just, when I was watching this episode, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, I just sat back and relaxed and enjoyed it. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that I just watched the Suicide Squad and I just sat back, relaxed, and enjoyed that too. So that does have a lot to do with it. So that will conclude my spoiler review of the Bad Batch episode number 15, Return to Kamino. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Share this video with your friends. Leave a comment down in the comment section below. And if you'd like, subscribe to the Pacific414 YouTube channel by hitting the subscribe button. And you can also follow me on social media. The links will be down in the description below. So I want to thank you all for watching. Have yourselves a good rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, weekend, weekday, whatever. And as always, take care.